joining us now as a guest we had on, I believe, last week. But there's been some new information, new revelations coming out in the fight to get justice for all of the parents that were targeted by the Biden's Department of Justice. So joining me now, Kelly Walker, once again, joins the show. He's the founder and editor of Freedom Talk magazine, and he was one of the very parents that the Biden DOJ went after. And now he's in a fight to get justice under the Trump administration. So Kelly, thank you for joining us once again. Welcome back to the show.
Heather, it's great to see you. And boy, you're doing a great job. I miss Mike Lindell, miss seeing his smiling face, but what a great guy he is, and what a great fighter. And, I'm experiencing similar pushback on some things where he's spoken out bravely.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So tell us about that, because we have, I heard from you a couple days ago, we were going to bring you back on because what appeared like a step in the right direction under the Trump DOJ, now I'm hearing is derailed. We have this tweet, if we can go ahead and put it on the screen here, that you had put out the other day. And you said, Parents Demanding Justice Alliance says trust with the Trump DOJ is improving after months of tension as targeted school parents continue seeking apologies, restitution, and relief from the Biden Garland era weaponization. We also had this article from the Gateway Pundit, or Joe Hoff put out this article here on your situation, targeted parents rebuild trust with Trump DOJ. But within the last 24 hours, since that article came out, you're telling me something has changed behind the scenes. Can you give us a little update? Tell us what's happening, Kelly.
Sure. Let me start by saying that I wrote that article. Joe Hoff republished it, which I appreciate. And it's an attempt on my part to make some peace, to extend an olive branch. I was very open in sharing some recordings where parents were again referred to as terrorists, and we were told that there's no federal remedy, that this is a state issue and the DOJ is not going to help us. So those things were said. I know that it upset some people at DOJ, but I'm not quite sure why I'm being treated the way I am for doing one James O'Keefe type thing that I didn't even plan to do. But some people have been talking to DOJ, so I put this out in good faith, saying, "Hey, we're talking. President Trump has been generous enough to propose this fund." I appreciate that Todd Blanche put a fact sheet out saying, yes, indeed, the parents have been targeted, and saying that putting an apology in that plan. But then by last night we've had a setback, and I'm just going to very openly discuss that, because frankly DOJ needs to come to the table with us targeted parents, and with good reason.
So I want to put up another tweet that you had posted, and this is one, if we can go ahead and put that on the screen. You said, "This week I wrote an olive branch article to publicly express a willingness to come to the table. No public response. I'm trying here. I think the DOJ has an obligation to redress grievances of those they work for, especially those they directly damaged." But then you also go on to say, "The fact is the only person in the DOJ who has met with a targeted parent victim of weaponization is actually Ed Martin, who they got rid of without ever explaining why." So I kind of can you take me back to that meeting with Ed Martin and explain what transpired in that particular meeting?
Sure. Going all the way back to July 15th, when I organized a press conference attended by every major parenting group, some of the victims of Garland's weaponization against parents, a lot of media. We had expected Ed Martin to be there. He had said that he planned to, and I was told at that event, I'll just be very open and transparent. Somebody from the inside said that Todd Blanche had prevented Ed from being there. I didn't even know who Todd Blanche was. I'm a guy, I'm a dad, I'm a working dad, trying to navigate this whole thing. So I said, well, maybe I need to talk to him then, because it's Ed is the director of the Weaponization Working Group. Why was he prevented from coming? Well, I ended up meeting with Ed a couple of different times, and Ed was very supportive. He said the first time he didn't know who I was, and we just kind of laid out the scenario. But by the second time, Ed said, "Wow, Kelly, you've really got this together. You've got this universe managed. You're very credible." And he started to look at some of the cases. He wrote a letter which applied to all of this, but to a specific parent, acknowledging that the federal government had weaponized against us. But then suddenly Ed was gone. And I found this out on January 23rd when I went up to DOJ to meet with a senior official. And I went there thinking, hey, we're getting somewhere, but what happened to Ed and how come we're stalled out? Some parents were expressing frustrations, which it's my duty to be a voice for them to express those frustrations because it had been a year. And, from our standpoint, nothing's happened and parents are continuing to be persecuted. But I sat in that meeting, and of course, I heard in regards to the parents that the whole DOJ feels like we don't negotiate with terrorists. And I'm trying to move past that because it's hard to explain the effect that has on people who have lived under that stigma of domestic terrorism for years and lost from it and had their lives threatened and everything else. But then as the meeting continued, I was told this is a state issue, not a federal one. There's no federal remedy. I was told that if I want, and I was asked, what do you want? I said, we want our lives back. And I was told, if you want that, you're going to have to sue the DOJ. So I left that meeting thinking, wow, they're closing the door on us. They're trying to push this back on the states. But another thing that I didn't highlight, but I still have this recording as well, is I was told, I said, what about the hearing we were promised under Bondi? It was canceled and no one ever rescheduled it. Well, we might do that in June. And I thought, wow, that's 6 months and parents are still suffering. Why are we waiting? And this official told me, but we want squeaky clean parents, and basically let me know that I'm not going to be a part of that because I was convicted. So they're looking for parents who the optics are going to be good for the DOJ. To me, that's disingenuous. To me, that's hiding the truth. And I pushed back on that. I said, the parents who've been arrested, jailed, a couple of them still have warrants. In one case, a school mom went to jail, but they put out a warrant for her arrest because she refused to write a letter of apology for what they'd put her through. So I said, these are the people you need to have up front. You don't need to sanitize this, because here's something very, very, Heather, that's very, very important. In fact, the targeted parenting issue is kind of like a foot in the door for keeping the weaponization fund from slamming shut. And here's the difference between the parents and, say, J6. It's been acknowledged that the federal government weaponized against these parents. Several state attorneys general, the Judiciary Committee, and others called it a massive fraud. And we know that it happened. It's been acknowledged. But Merrick Garland, although the records show that he was seeking a federal hook, as he called it, he failed to find enough to indict one single parent. And the National School Board Association, with whom he'd colluded to set this narrative, ended up apologizing. Merrick Garland never did. But the NSBA had to go back and say, we mischaracterized the parents. None of them were violent. So we're coming to the DOJ saying, look, you weaponized against us. We did nothing wrong. You couldn't even find a federal hook to indict us. So why is DOJ now adjudicating and saying, well, we want these people to talk, but we don't want those people to talk? And why are they still saying we don't negotiate with terrorists? Does the DOJ really believe we were targeted, or do they still think that we're radicals and terrorists and we need to be dealt with? Because it feels awfully punitive to me. I am the recognized leader of a spokesperson for these parents. I'm the only one in the Parents Demanding Justice Alliance. I created it. I'm the only one that is actually a targeted parent. So I know there's an effort to shut me up. I'm an embarrassment, but this is not. If we accept this kind of pressure from the people that we vote into office, then our children are going to inherit this problem. They're going to be censored. They're going to be pushed around, and nothing's resolved. So part of what is supposed to happen is people in the DOJ are supposed to be held accountable. Nobody has. Merrick Garland walks around. Nobody's pushed back on him. But I think it's our right and our duty as citizens to point that out, not in a vindictive way or to be overly critical of our administration. But the reason I wrote that article is to say, hey, I'm willing to overlook all that stuff. Let's move past that. Let's sit down together. I think that's a great offer because I'm willing to say, let's work this out together as a people. But the response has been just to double down and try to portray me as some sort of radical. That's hurtful. That's hurtful. I'm just a dad out here. I'm doing my best for a lot of people. Everybody knows I'm not doing this for money or notoriety. And
Mhm.
it's already, you know, this isn't the
See,
way it's supposed to work.
no, it's not, but, like, it's so funny, I had to chuckle there when you said, when you said I'm not a radical, but I'm over here thinking, like, where are all the parents? Like, we should be more radical because of what's happening to our kids. It's like, in reality, I look at the parents that stand up and, like, they can, call us radical, if you will, but, like, I mean, the founding fathers, the patriots that fought the British, right, were considered radical back then, but they were
Yeah,
actually doing what was right. And sometimes I think in today's day and age, I mean, it's still happening. Our schools right now, our children are still being victimized by policy
yeah,
and
yeah.
the books and the teachers and the system. So it's so frustrating, Kelly, hearing you talk about how, even somebody like Todd Blanche, which I've never met him, I've never interviewed him. I've heard mixed, reactions. I've heard a lot of people say he was really responsible for the damage Bondi did, and she was just sort of like the face of the DOJ, but it was really Todd Blanche. I don't know if that's the case, but I do know Ed Martin I've talked with in the past and was a great
Yeah.
patriot. He was a fighter. He's
Well,
someone that
Ed actually helped us, and he sat down and listened to us. Todd Blanche refuses to meet with me. He wants to demonize me and say, well, he can't be trusted because he record. I didn't plan to record it. We were scared to death at what was being said. When you have been branded a terrorist for years and you've lost everything and you've been hounded and hunted, those words are inflammatory. And all I want is for the DOJ to say, yep, that happened. We're sorry. I don't care how they explain it. They can say we misspoke, whatever it is. But the way they're handling it now is to put the blame on me and demonize me for being open and transparent about what was said. They're not taking responsibility for it. And frankly, now I'm looking, saying, are they going to retaliate? Because when we apply for uh, restitution funds, are they going to say, no, not that guy? He's a pain in the butt. We're not going to do it. So look, I am a targeted parent, yes, but we also had a coffee shop. We had a public facing business where a whole lot of parents were coming to us and saying they're driving our kids to suicide with these policies. I
Mhm.
stepped willingly into that line of fire, and I've taken hits for a lot of people. Everybody knows that. It's inexcusable to try to exclude me from a hearing, particularly because I have lived and I represent the parents in our dossier who were treated so egregiously. We had school moms who were put in to prison with drug dealers, and to use this flimsy excuse, well, he shared our own words with the public. Well, that's my duty and it's a legal right. But to use that to try to censor me and to exclude certain parents because they want to manage the optics, it's not acceptable, and there's no defense for that. So I want
Yeah.
Todd Blanche to do the right thing. I want to believe in the DOJ, but so far I put out an olive branch and they lit it on fire.
Yeah, I mean, and by the way, like, if anybody is paid for with taxpayer dollars, you have every right to record them because we're a government of we the people. We're the executors of our government. And if you work for us and we want to record you, we have that right. It's funny hearing, the pushback on the recording when one of the biggest topics we covered in recent weeks was literally the Republicans wanting to extend warrantless
I
spying
know,
on
I
American
know.
citizens. But
And
now you're getting
we
criticized
were
for wanting
surveilled.
to.
Yep,
Yeah.
we were surveilled. We had the vans outside the shop. I had FBI come in and identify themselves. And I said, why are you here? They said, well, somebody accused you of cyber stalking. I said, okay, let me show you. Here's this guy who's been threatening to kill my family for months. They didn't investigate him, they investigated me. I mean, we're getting death threats. FBI didn't care. So
Mm.
the picture we're getting right now is we want the Trump administration to succeed. We want to work with them. We want to resolve this, but we're still being treated. Look, you can't walk it back. You said we don't negotiate with terrorists. You can't walk that back. What you have to do is own it. And I'm willing to come forward and say, apology accepted. I also want to know why we have to apply for an apology, because we put forward a very detailed dossier of targeted parents. We submitted all the cases. Is now DOJ going to decide who deserves an apology and who doesn't? How
Mhm.
often do we see a settlement where one party sets all the stipulations and the other party You just take it or leave it. I would love to get a call from Todd Blanche tomorrow, say, you know what, Kelly, I see how this made you feel. I see how those words were incendiary. I see how you've dealt with trauma for years. Let's start fresh. Let's meet. Let's work this out. I would be there in a minute. I'd be their biggest fan. But I can't see under President Donald Trump's administration the same kind of treatment of parents where we're demonized simply for speaking out and saying, we need help because we did the right thing. I could show you the notes where people have been sending me lately saying, you saved lives. I have a letter from a little kid who said, your coffee shop was the only place I could feel like I'm in America, like things are real. And she wrote this as a school paper to say, because of what Mr. Walker did, I had the strength to keep going on. I have never had a criminal record. I'm not a violent man. I've never been violent. And yet I have had to live under the stigma for years that I'm some sort of terrorist. I've had enough. Slander me all you want, blackball me all you want. I'm not going to shut up because what the federal government did to parents was wrong. And they're still trying to silence us. And I find that unacceptable.
Yeah. Well, I mean, as I was listening to you talk, I couldn't help but just think of like what was done to Jesus. I mean, you look at like it going as far back as the Bible goes, right? There's always been these kinds of injustices that happen, but it's so important that we step up in these times in the middle of the persecution. I mean, we're as Christians, we're told we're going to be persecuted for this kind of stuff. And I guess where I'm at right now is just thinking that like I was hoping we'd make a little more headway with the Trump administration, but I know Trump is only one man, right? And there's only so many minutes and hours. Like, I just feel like there are still some people around Trump that are not good people, that are not doing.
We're very concerned for Donald Trump. We're very concerned. Does he really know how some of these staff are treating people? We want to see them do the right thing. We want to work with them, right? But I'll say this: even in ancient Rome, any citizen could appeal to Caesar. I would like to talk to Donald Trump man to man, person to person, and say, this is what the parents are seeing. This is what they think. And frankly, in June, we've got an MMA match on the front lawn of the White House. I have been asking for months, as several of us have been, that we could just have a small ceremony on the White House lawn to honor these parents for what they did. We've lost family members, friends, jobs, everything because we were demonized. Why can't President Trump, as the first parent, just get up and say, hey, you parents come here. We're going to take 30 minutes just to say, these people did the right thing. My oldest son won't talk to me. My second oldest son only just started because of the slanders that were used against us. It takes them a while to grow up and realize, hey, maybe the media isn't always truthful. Mm-hmm. Having something like that for these parents, we shouldn't have to apply for an apology. We should have had it day one. That would be so healing for us. But the way we've been treated, and to be told once again we're terrorists, that's inexcusable. I'm sorry. I can't overlook that. And yeah. I'm very, very grateful for what Trump's trying to do. I don't know that there, frankly, with all the J6, with Mike Lindell, all the others, I don't know that there's enough money in there to take care of all the damage that's been done. And frankly, Mike Lindell should be covered under Arctic frost like these self-dealing senators gave to themselves.
Yeah. Well, so on the one hand, right, like one of the battles currently is to get justice for the parents that were targeted, right? But then the second part of the battle is like the issues the parents were fighting for back then that they were targeted over. Those issues are still very much present today, right? Whether it was like, the forced masking and stuff, like I'm sure if we had another pandemic, it would happen all over again, right? Nothing's changed about the schools believing they have that authority. And then secondly, I want to show you like some tweets here on the grooming of these kids, like the actual child abuse.
Yeah. The persecution goes on and we're not getting backed up in fighting this fight. We're not getting the backup.
Yeah, so here's a tweet that Libs of TikTok put out, and this just came out. Actually, it came out today. Pittsburgh Public Schools Superintendent Wayne Walters held a gender-inclusive summit, which included pronoun pins, a pride parade, queer art, LGBTQ activist panels and speakers. And they put up those images there celebrating identity, inclusive schools, they're still psychologically and emotionally manipulating our children and sexualizing them and grooming them. And these are kids, right? Like here we are about to come up to Pride Month, and it's going to be all in our schools, public schools that receive federal tax dollars. So why, I guess my
And
question for you, Kelly, is like, what can the federal government do? Because I know you mentioned earlier they mentioned, you know, leaving it to the states, but if we're sending federal tax dollars to all these different schools, there has to be some sort of way that we can have influence on these policies existing within those school walls.
if you go to realfreedomtalk.com and you go to the Parents Demanding Justice page, we have done so much. There is so much information there. And one of the things that we did was draft a proposed executive order with very concrete steps of what can be done. First and foremost, we need the president to recognize these parents because we're still in this fight and we're still being weaponized against. People are still being arrested. We're being blackballed. We've done the right thing and we're still struggling under it. The federal government, you can't just make excuses. You got to do what you can. First of all, starting with a mea culpa that yes, the federal government set these parents up. America First Legal did a smoking gun report. It's all there. We know this happened. There's no question. Second of all, stop demonizing and adjudicating the parents based on these fraudulent charges that were brought against them. It's all BS. Merrick Garland, we can trace it. He worked with downstream prosecutors. It's like he hired a hitman. Stand by the parents. Stand by us. Don't tell us we're terrorists. Don't tell us we can't be part of a hearing because you think the optics are bad for you. We want a government that's accountable and transparent and that is going to come alongside the people and say, thank you for your service. Not that's going to blame you and say, well, you recorded us, so we can't trust you. Are you kidding me? Why are we supposed to trust the DOJ after 5 years of being falsely persecuted? We want to trust them because Republicans are in office, but if Todd Blanche is okay with these brave parents being characterized as terrorists, is he really a Republican? Because that's not a value that we voted for. And I get it, like, you know, it's pretty easy to try to set up J6 people. You bring in videos of you know, people pushing crowds or whatever. But what the heck did the parents do except the right thing and stand up?
Mm-hmm.
None of the characterization that Merrick Garland tried to make us stick resulted in a single federal indictment, and yet is the federal government who destroyed the lives of these people. They should, frankly, you know, they're a very small part of the fund if everybody got, so it wouldn't take funds away from anyone, but frankly, they should be first in line because if anybody's absolutely innocent, it's them. But we don't want to wait till all the cases are adjudicated for every, you know, 1,600 people plus everyone else, and then the clocks run out and we're not taken care of. So I care deeply about the J6ers. We fostered a little boy while his innocent mother was sent to prison and basically tortured. So for me, it's not a competition. We all need to stand together, but we need to expect this government to follow the executive order, to be transparent, to apologize, and to stop demonizing us. We've had enough of being demonized. We've done the right thing. These people work for us. We don't work for them. And they do well to remember that.
Yeah. So what is the status of that, the weaponization fund? Because I read something yesterday that a judge had come out and sort of temporarily blocked it.
No, nobody knows, but I'm trying to get across the point that this argument that people have that it's a J6 slush fund, the parents and some other groups are key to keeping that door from slamming shut. And I do believe, by the way, personally, I believe that the J6ers deserve it and more. But nobody knows. I mean, this announcement's been made. Nobody knows how to apply. Somebody close to President Trump, it came out in the media that he had applied, and I'm thinking like, wait, how was he the first person to apply? Nobody else is able to. It's a mess right now. It's, you know, we've got Republican senators and congressmen opposing it, which is despicable, because of all the things they give themselves and all the privileges and prerogatives. Frankly, I think what needs to be done is people like Mike Lindell, Rudy Giuliani, people who need big dollar restitution should be put into the Arctic frost provision with the senators like Lindsey Graham said he would do. And then the fund, and we need to try to find more funds, should be going to people like us who are just struggling just to make a living after having our entire lives swept away. So look, we can play political games all day long, but we're tired of this. The American people are tired of the games. We want to be treated like human beings, like we're important, like it is actually a government of for and by the people. We're tired of the games, Todd Blanche. Just come clean. Let's talk. Let's work this out. We'll make it a win for you. It will definitely be a win for President Donald Trump. But the alternative is, yeah, have a hearing, exclude me, demonize me. That's a losing path right there. That's a losing path because you've already taken everything from me.
Yeah, well, we really we appreciate you coming on as always. Why don't you tell everybody watching where they can go to get plugged in, maybe subscribe to you, follow you. That way, as you go along this journey and you put out new information, they can be on top of it. So plug your stuff there, Kelly.
Yeah, go to realfreedomtalk.com. If you'd like to donate, you can go to givesendgo.com/freedomtalk. I'm really literally keeping tires on my car and helping people and talking to people every day. And we're not unhinged. We're just people who are deeply hurting. That the federal government has hurt us in a manner that's very, very wrong. There's no getting out of it. But if you would like to help, it helps me help others. And anytime, finances have been up and down for us. Of course, when you're cancel culture out of your job and your business and everything else. But anytime we get a little extra, we give to other people, and some have done that for us. So go to realfreedomtalk.com. You can subscribe to Freedom Talk Magazine for free. We also have a $50 a year version that helps us too. And Mike Lindell sends Freedom Talk out to his whole list, and we're so immensely grateful for that. So it does get a good readership.
Well, thank you so much, Kelly. You and Mike are both fighters, so we appreciate you coming on as always.
I love Mike, and I'm so appreciative for everything he's done for me, and I'm firmly behind Mike, and I'll fight for him too. And what little voice I have, I'll fight for Mike because he deserves the highest honor for everything he's been through.
Yeah, amen. You too as well, Kelly. Thank you so much. Appreciate you joining.
Thank you.
So there's a lot of great patriots out there in this world, but I got to go back to that story of Jesus, right? Jesus was a perfect man. He loved everyone. He helped people. He had kindness in his heart, yet he was still persecuted, nailed to a cross. So many bad things were said about him. So many bad things were done to him. And so the message I kind of want to, after this segment, for people to really realize is that at the end of the day, it doesn't matter who of this world judges us. It matters how God judges us. And if your heart is pure and you're doing things for noble reasons, well, then let people call you a radical. Let people mock you. Let the government come after you. I mean, we can't live in fear and live in faith at the same time. So I'll just leave you guys with that at the end of this segment, is just remember Jesus, follow Jesus, and be like Jesus.